Welcome to the Invisible Agent Podcast, the show for insurance agents ready to go from unknown to unstoppable, where visibility, strategy, and real-world execution meet. Hosted by Dave Cheatham and Mike Sorensen.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Invisible Agent Podcast, where we teach agents like you how to go from unknown to unstoppable. My name is Mike Sorensen.
And I'm David Cheatham.
And Dave, I know you have a real, actually heartwarming story to share with us today. If you want to, floor is yours.
I don't know, heartwarming, but it's a
Trying to
play
play
on
off a little
exactly
bit.
what this is. Yeah, right. So, the whole entire idea of this episode is embracing your heart to dominate in your business. And this really has to do with you embracing you being unique. And I think too many agents out there do the opposite. So if you think about it, I've had this happen to me now a couple of times. I had to get fingerprinted, and no, not by law enforcement, but to get licenses. For me to become a teacher, get my teaching license, I had to get fingerprinted. For me to even take the class or the test to become a teacher, I had to get fingerprinted. To get a mortgage license, I had to get fingerprinted. In certain states, you have to get fingerprinted before you can even get an insurance license. And the key is all of our fingerprints are unique and different, but it's not just our fingerprints. I think too many people stop there. It really goes deeper. Our body is completely different than everyone else's body. How even a medication, right? If it was that simple that all of our bodies were the same and worked the same way, one medication would do the same thing for all of us, and it doesn't. And I go back to the heart, and that really it's a unique muscle in our body, but all of our hearts are different. They function hopefully the same way, and they're supposed to work the same way, right? Meaning the job of the heart is the same. However, some people have holes in their heart. Some people's hearts have some defects. Some hearts have a different electrical system. Uh, our genetics have a role in our heart, but not just that, but what we do, exercise, not exercise, sit on a couch, sit on a chair, to what we eat and do those things affect our heart. And the person that has a healthy heart has a better chance of living a longer and more fulfilling life. And so when we say embrace your heart to dominate, it's how do you use your heart? How do you look at your heart? And so we're not going to go into deep on what the heart actually stands for, but we really have this whole entire concept, this framework that of heart is heart, the passion, experience, ability, resources, and talent. And that is what you need to look at as part of embracing you. And we're going to talk about three different tips and concepts, but the first one I really want to talk about is don't ignore your background, right? This is that experience area. The background that I have is different than everyone else. And I can almost prove this in the fact that I am sitting here and I am listening to stories about my sister's childhood and my older sister's childhood and my older brother's childhood. And again, they're older. I have a sister that's about a year younger, just over a year younger. And we could have been in the same area. We could have been camping in the same location. We could have been doing all these different things. And her eyes, her experience was different than mine. Neither one was right or wrong. It's just a different experience, right? Because we all take things in differently. And so I say, one, don't ignore your background, because those experiences and what you've gone through in your life will allow you to relate to people. This goes to that relationship. It'll allow you to relate to people differently. And it's not just relationships, it's even from a marketing and everything else standpoint. Because of my background, I can have different conversations with certain people and we connect in a different way. That is a relationship thing. But, for me to go and have a discussion, a friend of mine ran a restaurant. I have a bunch of people that I've known that owned restaurants. And knowing that, and this is go, don't ignore your background. I tend to tip more because I know a lot of them and the servers didn't necessarily make the best money, and I would hear about
Hard
that.
life. The restaurant
Yeah.
business is a hard life. Coming from
Yeah,
it,
I was saying
hard life.
you worked in a restaurant for a while, right?
Yeah, I was a front end and then a back end manager, and then was a server for a number of years. It's a hard life. But it teaches you a lot. Teaches you a lot.
Yeah, it teaches you a lot. So, uh, so that background really matters. I can tell you that my experience with just my own background allowed me to do things and connect with people in a different way and gave me a lot of framework and philosophy of where I was at. There's things that I absolutely hate doing, just like all of us, and there's things that I absolutely enjoy doing. Like I hate mowing the lawn,
Okay,
hate it with a
I've
passion,
heard you talk about this before.
right? I grew up in a house that if you didn't do it right, you kept doing it until you got it right. In many ways, and so I hate mowing the lawn. Yet there's certain things like listen. I'll vacuum. I'll do the dishes. I'll do the laundry. I'll do those things. I don't hate doing those. I genuinely hate mowing the lawn. Yet I know people that love mowing the lawn. That doesn't make us either one of us right or wrong. It's the reason I hate mowing the lawn. And most of the people have a reason they hate or dislike something. So your background matters. And so as you are creating a marketing plan and all these things, I see all these organizations say, you need to do this. And they're putting this, you know, square peg in a round hole, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't jive, and you feel uncomfortable. And you're going to do things that make you feel uncomfortable. If you're just getting going in this business and you don't want to train yourself to do things out of the ordinary, you need to embrace your background and find out what you do like to do to really kind of get that
I think
kind of going.
there's a fault in this line somewhere though between like just being uncomfortable doing something new versus being uncomfortable because that's just how you are either in social dynamics or maybe in a certain situation. Because my background is, I worked at Best Buy, sold like TVs, dishwashers, you freaking name it. There was a lot of repetitions with just seeing facial structure, how body language and all that stuff worked. Then went to the restaurants, and that's just a ton of body language. Unfortunately, just getting treated not well and having to smile and say, "Hey, thank you so much for coming in," and the 0 tip, "Have a great day." Like that type of stuff. Like, so when I got into insurance, like, and I worked in the car business too. And when I left the car business, the guy's name's Nate. He was the GM, and he asked me where I was going. I said, I'm gonna go sell insurance. And he said, "Stay customer facing." He's like, he told me straight to my face. He's like, "You do really well when you're face to face with people." Because when I was at this dealership, like we had like 6 straight months when I was there where we just like we just broke each service record every single month. And he said, "Don't do anything that puts you behind a phone." Like I was like, "No, okay, fair enough." Don't know really what that means yet, but my whole background, I just got a ton of reps just in front of people, pretty much engaging with them, understanding what they're saying, how they're saying it, their body language. Where like then I got into a situation where I could really excel and made really good money. They got into insurance, and I had to get behind a phone, but that there was a difference between me hating the phone and it for being a vehicle to get me in front of people. So when we say like, hey, if you say, "Oh, I don't like being hot on the phone," like there's being uncomfortable and there's being something you're just not comfortable with because you're new to it. And I realized like being behind the phone wasn't like, yes, I was uncomfortable with, and I'm still uncomfortable to this day, but it's the vehicle to get me to the Zoom or to the person in front of you. And if I didn't have that kind of look back, I mean, looking at this now, don't ignore your background. That's just like a full circle moment for me was like, without me kind of understanding that and just putting myself behind a phone, like I live a probably pretty average life, but getting in front of people, there's an element of recharging that I get when I get by myself, but there's an element of, it's like lacing up your shoes, getting ready for the big game when you go meet with somebody to talk about, coming on board or helping them with marketing. Like there's that type of level I super enjoy, but for me to get there, I have to use a vehicle that I don't really like to enjoy, but it gets me to what I want to do. You have to understand that first from like looking at what you're good at or what you've done in the past to create where you want to go now. And it takes self-awareness, really. So, and that's a lot of agents running into this business now, insurance in general. I think there's this stock, like, all right, you have three boxes to choose from. Like, if it's outside one of these three boxes, like, there isn't a process or a system to do it because most organizations, like, all right, well, you're gonna buy leads, you're gonna call leads and sell over the phone, or you're going to run off referral or just do like seminars. It's like, if it's anything outside of those three boxes, like, there isn't a system or a place for it. And I think that's what we've alluded to with H.E.A.R.T is like taking more of a consideration into like things you are good at, connections, relationships, what you've done successfully in the past, incorporating what you do now, because most don't look at that as an advantage. They look at it as immaterial immaterial, whatever that word is, immaterial when it comes to getting into insurance. It's just about volume and reps of just one or two things. And they don't
Right.
really look at the other part.
Yeah. And that's, that is so instrumental in looking at where you're at. And I think too many people don't even look at it. How many people, and it takes work. I'm not gonna lie, right? People
Yeah.
come and ask us questions, and I ask them a question back, and they don't ever think about it. And, what is your background? What makes you unique? You know, why would a person want to work with you, right? And too many people are just taught, hey, listen, here's the path, only go on this path and don't divert from this path, because if you divert from this path, you're not going to be successful. Oh, wait, has it not anyone learned that more than 90% of everyone that gets into the insurance business fails? And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but there's a
Reality.
reason why that is. It's because everyone teaches this is what you must do, and they don't take into account who you are, because they never ask you and get to know who you are and your background and all the things that make you unique. Um, Now they do things a little bit differently in some organizations, but for the most part, they don't. But if here's the thing, you're a business owner and you have to take control. You have to decide. And I will tell you, like, one of our big systems is finding out about your background, because it will give us an insight for things. Uh, there are people that they truly have legitimate fears of things. Fear of speaking in front of people, standing up and speaking in front of a crowd. Believe me, I had that fear. It's one of the reasons I did what I did to get over that fear, because
There
I
was
knew what I wanted to do, and it was not as selling insurance.
there was an old Seinfeld joke, if you watched the show Seinfeld, about how he made a joke about how people have a bigger fear of public speaking than actually death. It's like, people have more people are actually more willing to be in the casket than to speak the eulogy. Like, that's like, it was an old joke about that. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. I had to make a
I
comment.
don't know if that's really a joke. I think it's probably true.
No, he said it, but it was like, it's like, when you think about it, like, people fear that more than, like, actually dying sometimes. It's crazy. And myself, even in college, I bought blurred glasses in college, just like prescription glasses, when I spoke in front of people. So I blurred out their faces so I couldn't see them. That's how I did presentations, because I could still see the PowerPoint next to me, but I couldn't see out in the crowd.
Right. Uh, so yeah, we have agents that are with us that have that fear. We have some agents that want to overcome that fear. We've never said to any agent, oh, you have to go do educational seminars or do presentations. Everyone is different. And there are some people that finally go, I think I'm ready to learn how to do that. And we'll help them do those things if that's what they want to do. But that's because they want to overcome that fear, or they want to overcome that hesitancy, because something happened in their life since the time they started to now that they decided that that's something they want to do. It could be that they finally found an ability, that they had an ability to speak in front of people and it was okay. And there's things I hate doing, there's things I dislike doing, there's things I think is okay, and there's things I like, but then there's things I love. I want to move more towards my love because we all move more towards our wants than our needs.
Mhm.
That's just a fact of life. So if we can use and you can look at your background and look at those things. And this kind of goes to the second point of don't force that square peg into a round hole. Don't force yourself in the beginning, especially of your career, or even if you're been doing this for a while and have not taken the sand or to round it out, right? Some people just go, hey, here it is. You have to do this. And they want to take that and slam that square peg in that round hole and never take the time to shape it. A tree doesn't come out as a 2x4. You like that one,
Yeah.
Mike?
That was good. I like that one. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
um, but it's true, right? I mean, we have to go through the lumber mill. I mean, we cut down a tree, but it doesn't come out as a 2x4 when you cut down that tree. When it's standing there, it's not a 2x4, right? Think about the work that it goes into getting a 2x4. And then even a straight 2x4. I don't know the last time you were at a lumber mill, but I mean, I
Tony,
can tell
tell me
you
something. Who buys a straight 2x4? Those things are always warped.
that
Always.
true, right? Uh, so, uh, but so
But
you're not the two
there
by
is that line though. There is that line between, again, like forcing square peg round hole or adaption. Like
yes,
there is adaption because yeah, I mean, do you have to public speak? No. Do you have to call over the phone? No. Do you have to do seminars? No. But there is an element. And you said people who want to overcome the fear, like they realized, I think over time they weren't really like deathly afraid of it. It was just uncomfortable at the time. And now, since they're comfortable in maybe the business, what they've been doing, they can elevate by doing things a little differently and just putting themselves outside the comfort zone a little bit. You know, there's definitely a buoy area that you should probably swim in. That doesn't mean that you can't go out and closer to the buoy or a little bit outside the buoy. Like you just don't want to get stuck in the middle of the ocean and be screwed. You don't want to get
yeah.
to that part. You want to kind of stay within or near that comfort zone, but maybe push yourself a little bit outside of it. Because, I never would have done insurance if it really wasn't, or I would never have been successful in insurance unless I put myself on the phone and I put myself in an environment around other agents that were doing it. And I got to listen and got to, do this repeatedly that made it a little bit more comfortable over time. So I think there's things you can do from a business perspective that it is uncomfortable, but you can make it more comfortable so you can adapt to it and become better at it. You don't have to jump in the deep end and, it's sink or swim.
Again,
There's a
yeah,
story I've
yeah.
been going.
You're not forcing something. You're shaping it, right? So you take who you are already and you shape it into where you're going, which means there's going to be some work. And I think that's the point, right? There's going to be some work. Don't think that this is just going to be hunky dory easy, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know too many people that were just born salespeople, right? There is not many people that are just born salespeople. They learn it, right? So our director of operations used to train dogs, and she would used to, tell people, hey, when a dog is not born learning English or Spanish or German. It They don't speak a language. Neither
Yeah.
do we
Yeah.
as humans. So there becomes a point in which you have to adapt. But here's, and I want to, in this model, in this part, this is where the phrase, and it really, my it's like nails on a chalkboard when I hear this. What one person can do, another person can do. If that's the case, we'd have a lot of Michael Jordans or Wayne Gretzky's, or name a professional athlete or some of the best doctors in the world. That is not true because some of how we are made is different. And we shouldn't try to be what everyone else is, but we can use who we are to adapt ourselves to grow. And that's what we have to be open to. Um, if you don't test yourself, if you don't learn or change, you're going to be passed by. And that's just the truth. So, um, so you sand, massage, chisel, do whatever you need to do but use what you already have to use those things, right? Use your strengths to build up your weaknesses.
And I think getting into our last point here is, since we've talked about don't ignore your background, we talked about don't force a square peg in a round hole, but some of you are maybe in organizations or maybe going to work in an organization where they're going to say, this is how you do things. It's like the Ford assembly line. Don't be pushed into doing things in the Ford assembly line model where it's just manufactured. Every agent comes in, does the same thing over and over again. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to a place that has like good systems that you can follow to be able to become great. It's doing the same things that they say, this person does this extremely well. You're just going to do the same thing, because I guarantee you that person's probably extremely talented at or very good at it. And right now you probably have an opportunity to do it, but does it make sense for you? You could be great at it as well, but don't settle for this manufactured, prepackaged way of doing things when you have skills, you have talents, you have experiences that you can leverage, because you know different people, you have done different things. There are ways that you can leverage what you do to create or grow your business. You don't have to rely on prepackaged or pre-manufactured things that have being set in front of you to do. Because there are agents that I run into on a weekly basis that will just float something by me that they have an ability to go do. And it's like, I I don't have those connections. I don't have those relationships, but I'm not going to tell them ignore those, like, because we have a way of doing things. Like, no, we want to explore those things. We want to explore those relationships, explore. There's venues, there's people that they have access to, networks. I mean, big people that I would never have connections with. And you may have the same opportunities as well. But we would never know unless we ask these questions. And most people don't, which, to each his own. But really evaluate when you're working in the business. I mean, you can make a tree, you can make a Venn diagram, you can make whatever you want on a piece of paper, but evaluate who you know, because it's not really what you know in this business. It's really who you know. And those relationships could be just one thing that could help spark your business.
Yeah, and I think this goes into, again, when I went into the captive company, they said, "Hey, make your, you know, 250, friends and family," and then that went into 500, and that was me going. I was supposed to go pitch them to sell them. That's not what we're talking about doing, right? I always say that if you get a new job, you tell everyone, right? When you go to college, if you go to college, you are almost telling everyone that you're going to college. When you get engaged, you normally tell everyone that you know that you got engaged, or maybe just got married if it's an you're eloping or whatever. Big milestone things you tell people about. So it's not that you're telling somebody to sell them. It's your family and friends, your network that are truly connected to you. We genuinely, as people, usually want to help people that we care about. And so it's not the pitching of them to sell them a product or just even sit down. It's really the idea in this aspect when it deals with that relationship is taking that background, because there's people that you know that can get you in front of people, right? It's those 6 degrees of separation. And this is one of the things that, I was talking to an individual about joining a network group and how do you actually do things. And what I did to be successful when I was in a networking group was different than what other people do, right? When you're in a networking group, I'm not sitting there trying to sell everyone in that networking group my product. I'm trying to get in front of the people they may know that would need what I do. But I also don't want them just give me a name and waste my time or their time. So a good lead is somebody that already needs what you have. So take it out of the insurance world and I go to a painter. Can I paint a wall? Yes, I can. I can paint. Um, I can tell you that I don't hate it. It's not like I like dislike it or like it. It's kind of a neutral thing for me. But I will also tell you, I am not the best painter. There are some phenomenal painters out there. So who do we know that knows a painter? So I'm sitting there and my wife and I are talking, and this just happened, by the way. We were talking, and my wife and I both just said, "Hey, we're basically done painting. We have the financial resources to hire a painter." At one time, we painted because that's what we did. We did that instead of hiring somebody. At a certain point in your life, you might have the financial resources to say, "Hey, instead of doing that, it's not something I love doing, so I'm going to hire somebody to do it instead." And we asked, "Well, who do we know?" And my brother-in-law goes, "Hey, you know what? We had a painter that came to our house that actually did something at the company I worked for, and I saw the job that they did there, and then they came to our house and they did a great job at our house, and so we reached out and they came over to our house and gave us a quote and they painted, and I'm telling you what, it was a phenomenal job. They know how to paint. They're more professional. That's what they do." So again, I didn't go to my brother-in-law and say, "Hey, you want to paint my bathrooms? Does he know how to paint?" Yes, he does. But we were going to find a professional to do it. And we were going to people we know that can give us that referral. And I'll tell you what, the people you know are looking and doing the same thing, especially the ones that want to help you. So, and so on this Ford assembly line, I don't know. Again, I just took one aspect of people say, "Hey, create this 250 list, list of 250 people or whatever." And they are trying to go sell those individuals. That is a Ford assembly line. That was the
Mm.
Ford assembly line I was on at the captive agency.
Still is today for a
And
lot of agencies. Still
yeah,
very common.
um, and you know what? If that works for them, that's fine. That's not. I'm not a proponent of that. That's not how we do business. But if that's what you feel comfortable with, go on ahead and do it. So, but it's not just that. It could be a bunch of other things. Again, we had an individual that their Ford assembly line is you buy business reply cards for final expense and you go knock on their doors. The individual spent $15,000, put down a credit card to go knock on doors to sell a final expense products and did not sell one product. And it almost cost them getting insurance appointments with carriers because they had a hard time paying that. They had some slow pays. So don't just think that what you're being told is the right thing. There's an agency out there that I know that would say, "Hey, you just got a check for $28,000. You need to go buy a new car." And the model was, "You made a great payday. Congratulations. You deserve to have this new car. You go buy a new car and now you have no money or you're in debt." And so the idea is if you have money, you're not going to work as hard, is their mindset. My mindset is when I make money, I want to make more money. So I'd rather go towards pleasure than pain, right? I want to move towards pleasure. I don't want to move so I get out of pain. I understand there's things you have to do to get out of pain. I'm not saying that you don't, but um, I just was an individual my whole life has that one thing. So look at where you're going. Don't be pushed into being on the Ford assembly line. And if you do, make sure it's where you're at and who you are, not something else. I can go to almost every organization. I can find people that are successful being on that Ford assembly line. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
I think people have I mean, again, some of these organizations have great systems, great things in place that they can just plug them right into their little environment and they could be extremely successful. But for at least a lot of agents that we've worked with, the amount of times when we ask these deeper questions to try to understand them, not only brings awareness to them about what things they are actually good at that they didn't even realize themselves, but also creates a deeper connection with us as an agency with them to help them grow where they trust and they will actually follow direction a lot easier. So for anyone who here has maybe employees or downlines, like asking these questions will ultimately help deepen the relationship with your agents as well, because these questions are not being asked in most agencies. And for your agents to understand what their true skills are will only make you more money. Because I guarantee you people that are in your agency or agents that you do know have connections, have relationships, have resources, and have talent that is being left untapped. And by asking just a few of these, to every single person that you're working with, I think can open up a lot of avenues, not only for the agent themselves, but for the business that you're working in as well.
Yeah,
Because I know
and
I've
I'm
learned with any agent, I've learned some significant amount of stuff about the agents we work with, about who they have access to, even political figures and government entities and large scale sporting organizations, like just insane stuff. Again, some more just factual and just fun, and some actually like you can use tactically in the business.
yeah, and I'm going to tell you, if you're a leader and you're leading agents, don't be afraid of creating leaders. You want to create leaders. You don't want all the followers. And I'm going to tell you that sometimes that's not comfortable for some leaders, but but you can learn from the people that you're with, and truly learning from their talents and their skills. There's things that I didn't know how to do that I'll go to one of my agents or somebody I know, and they will teach me how to do it if that's something I want to do. Right. So be aware of that. It's okay to ask for help. It's especially when you're asking for help from somebody that knows what they're doing and how to do it. So I know listen, I can go forever on this topic, but at the end of the day, it's I am imploring you to embrace your heart to dominate. That's heart, your passion, the experience that you have that's unique to you, your abilities that are different, your resources are different, and your talent is different. When you put all that together, embrace your heart, you will dominate. And I look forward for us to help you continue listening to this podcast, and you will continue to grow, and share it with other people. Go to invisibleagentpodcast.com and share it with other people that you know. And listen, we don't pay anything to put this word out. We're really doing this to help you, the insurance agent community, and even some small businesses that I hear that are listening to this. That's great, because a lot of things we're teaching are not just about the insurance business, right? And it's not just about one line of business, it's about a bunch of things. So if you want to know something, if you want to learn something about marketing, if you're looking to go from unknown to unstoppable, continue listening. We look forward to working with you in the future. Continue giving you feedback. You give us feedback, and that's that partnership that we have, that we don't even know who you are. But thank you, and thank you for listening.
See you in the next one.
We do not do any paid marketing to promote this podcast. It only grows if you find value in this and share it. Keep following as we show insurance business owners how to go from unknown to unstoppable. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.